Now this is how I finished off the last video, which was called Deceitful Definitions. It was with 4 quotes taken from John Robbins' lecture, Definition of Terms. Now the words in parentheses there at the end of each sentence are what I wrote. So I'm showing that where I disagreed and where I agreed. Now I don't actually know whether my agreement with Robbins is based on him understanding what I understand. I tend to think it's possible that in the case of the fundamental axiom of logic itself not being provable, I tend to think that we differ on why that's true. Anyway, I'm going to explain in this video further why I made those judgments, and I think I need to do that because I got a question from Xian Garrity, username Magma2551, and this is what he sent to me in a private message. He said, "One thing, you say that the axiom of logic can be proven. Can you provide that proof?" Now, if you refer back to what I actually did say, I agreed that the fundamental axiom of logic itself cannot be proven. But anyway, I'll explain a bit further here because I don't think it's very helpful just to say right or wrong. I was trying to stimulate a bit of thought though. So John Robbins' first quote, he says, "The axiom is your starting point." I said this is right because an axiom is a true proposition on which all consequent reasoning is based. For example, the law of identity is the basis of all truth. In other words, the axiom has to be true to begin with, and then you proceed on that basis. The next statement he said was that it cannot be proven. I said this is false because the proposition that you begin with, the true proposition on which your particular line of thinking is based, has to be proven true before it can be used. You can't continue on a line of thinking unless your axiom, your specific proposition on which your reasoning is based, is known to be true. You can't just assume that it's true. His third statement was this: the fundamental axiom of logic itself cannot be proven. And I agreed, but this is the reason why I agree with this statement. It's because the fundamental axiom of logic itself is the law of identity, A equals A, and it just means a thing is itself, right? Now, the law of identity cannot be proven true because any proofs you use will always require certain identities. That is, they will actually be using the law of identity, and that's why you cannot prove the fundamental axiom of logic itself. Nevertheless, you can use it in your reasoning, knowing that it is true. This isn't avoiding a proof, this is actually showing why you logically cannot prove it. This isn't avoiding a proof in the way that Robbins tries to avoid proofs. And the last statement was this one: the scriptures are the axiom of Christianity and cannot be proven. Now, I said this was wrong because this proposition falsely equates the scriptures with the law of identity. It pretends that they can't be proven because they're the fundamental axiom of logic. It pretends that it's just any old axiom. Well, it basically says that because no axiom can be proven true, therefore, any axiom, you can have any axiom you like and just go with it. I mean, that's just totally insane. Anyway, so I've proven that proposition false. Now I'll quickly wrap up this video with a response to a weblog entry by Xian Garrity, which he created in response to my video Deceitful Definitions. His weblog is at godshammer.wordpress.com, and he basically says that he's just saying, what's the big fuss? Robbins is just starting off with a particular axiom, so what? Well, I think it is a big deal because if you start off with an axiom that's actually not a reliable premise at all, you haven't proven it to be true, then all your consequent line of thinking is actually, just a mess. So you might as well chuck it all out. So it is a problem, and I think your comment there belittles the whole can of worms. This is the other statement that I thought worth focusing on from Xian's weblog. He says, she suppresses the truth and merely asserts that the logos of Scripture that lights her mind does not exist because she claims this is something she cannot experience. Now, I think the real issue here is that Robbins actually is defining logic to be God, and that therefore all your thinking is the same as the God that is defined in, say, the Westminster Catechism. And that's equivocation. That's actually a misuse of the law of identity. It's stating something as a definition and then using a totally different definition with the same label. So, for instance, in the Westminster Catechism, this is what Robbins reads out. He says, God is spirit, infinite, eternal, and unchangeable in his being, wisdom, power, holiness, justice, goodness, and truth. Now that is clearly not the same as thinking. It's not the same as logic at all. So I don't mind equating logic with what enlightens. I certainly think that's true. However, to say that what enlightens is God, to say that what enlightens is these attributes like wisdom, power, holiness, justice, goodness, etc. It's just like entering into a fantasy realm and saying, logic or truth or wisdom or power and all this stuff actually exists in some form outside of your own consciousness, that all this stuff actually exists in as some kind of entity out there, and that these sorts of attributes aren't qualities that you can define and assert within your own mind. So yeah, I think you've made a bit of a blooper there. Anyway, thanks, Xian, for your response.